Hey guys, how's it going? This is Dave Sebastian, coordinator of Mentoring Arts Programming with Wayside Youth and Family. I am here once again with you all, doing this thing that we call TAG. TAG is the art group, and I am excited to be here with you guys running it. Today we're going to continue our leather jacket project. Today would make about 24 hours that I've been working on it. This is the surface that we're going to work on, is this area right here. Over here is our larger image of Cthulhu. I could show you our finished project for that. Whoops, not that one, this one. There's where the back of the jacket looks like. And let me see if I can add one more for you. Just one sec. Oops, wrong way. There we go. Alright. This is what we did yesterday. This is on the other side of the jacket. Let me show you that. Oops. Just learning, just learning. So this is what those two images look like. So that symbol, that graphic, would be on the, if you're looking at the right side of the back of the jacket. And then today, we're going to do another one. Whoops. I'll throw that one up there for you too. Just one sec. Do I have it here? Maybe I do not. So let's see if we can show you. That ain't there. Sorry guys, I'll be right with you. There we go. All right. Where is that one? So here's the symbol we're going to work on today. This is another Cthulhu symbol. I like this because it has like an ancient, like an ancient vibe or whatever. And I think that seems funny. You know what I mean? So, whoops. I think that's cool, that they're kind of creating mythos or historical references to Cthulhu. This, for me, makes it that much cooler, makes it that much more believable, or that kind of stuff. So we are going to, I'm going to try to go through as much of the process with you guys as I can. If you guys watched the Facebook video yesterday, this is pretty much the same idea. We're just working, with a different graphic. This is the home stretch with this jacket. I think I have just a couple of simple ones, stencils that I'm doing on the front, the character's name and a little bit of information like that. I'm trying to model the front a little bit on your average biker jacket. Has like a patch with your name, a patch with, other information, that kind of stuff. So that's what we're going to try to do today. We are just setting up, like getting ready to go. So this is the space we're going to put it in. Let me get that one more time. Put it over here. So that's the space we're going to put it in. You can see where our stencil is right here. This stencil is the lettering. I don't know if you guys can see that. So this is the lettering that is around the edge of this graphic, So this will help us pull it in and give it the information that we need it to have. Hold on just one second, you guys. I just got to grab one more thing. Just take me a sec. All right, let's get back to this thing. I have to wait for the gear behind me to load up. So once that thing is loaded up, hold on one more second. Getting there, getting there. Looks like we still got some trouble loading up here. It looks impossible to believe that YouTube Music is down. It's pretty crazy. All right. Oh. Oh, nothing's worse than trouble while on camera. All right, sorry about that, guys. Jesus. Sorry about that, you guys. We are back together again. Sometimes you just can't get everything to work, you know? So this is what we're going to do first. First thing we're going to do is talk just for a second about my website and what... Did I say website? I'm going to talk for a second about my programs and what brings me here today to work with you guys. So I work with Wayside Youth and Family, which is a human service agency out of Framingham. I've been working with these guys for about 7 years. What we have done is create a partnership between Wayside and the Department of Mental Health for Massachusetts to create arts programming for young adults throughout Central Mass. Like I said, I've been doing this about 7 years, and the first thing we did with the job is build a studio in the basement of Tempo Young Adult Resource Center, which is, apparently very tired, at 68 Henry Street in Framingham. In the basement there, we built a full-service studio for the purpose of running an open studio program. We run that program on Wednesdays and Fridays from 10:30 to 3 when we're allowed to be there. That program is open to anyone 16 to 26, and I would love to run it with you. That's probably the thing I miss the most out here in our virtual world, is being able to spend time with real people. But I hope that I'm reaching some of you guys out there, and I hope that we are, I hope that this is something that helps to inspire you guys. Like, this work that I'm doing has really, very little to do with you guys doing exactly my project, because the chance of having the media that I'm working with and the surface and all that kind of stuff is a little bit complicated. This program has, unlikely, this program has, the intention is to inspire you to create with whatever you have. I kind of feel like you don't have to do this level of stuff. You can kind of do whatever you want, which is one of the beautiful things about art, right? Like, nobody can tell you the right way or the wrong way to do it. You just do it however you think is right. You're the master of your destiny when it comes to drawing or art creation. And I'll tell you, that is one of my favorite things of art creation, is it being, ours, to kind of do whatever you want with. Wish this particular stencil was just slightly smaller. We can absolutely cut that guy, but if we start cutting stencils, then the next couple of pieces, which I don't know if you guys can see them. Let's go here and say, I don't know if you guys can see this, but this is the additional pieces of the stencil at size. So once we go to put these guys in, you can see that they have to fit, inside our text. And hopefully that happens. We might have to cut those letters again anyway, because they don't seem to fit as well as I was hoping they would. That one doesn't fit too bad. Maybe it's just that I need to tip the head a little bit more. Yeah. So remember, I was just saying, the piece that we're looking for is this one. And so when we do, when we start working on it, we got to make sure that we can fit all this information. In fact, I wonder if it even makes sense to make to do the inside first, to make sure our outside is the right size. There's also the idea of like doing this piece first on, on like a piece of board or something, so that you have, you have all your spacing done correctly. I don't feel like that spacing is that bad. I feel like it looks pretty good. How I am creating the stencils is using Photoshop and Silhouette Studio. Getting too old, you guys. Too tired. So I am using Silhouette Studio and Photoshop to build these stencils. I found this stuff online. Obviously, if you search Cthulhu symbols, there's several. The few that I've used here, the two that I've used here, I found to be the most interesting and the most likely for me to be able to build as a stencil. So that's why I've picked these two. Again, I was showing you guys these ones so you can see what we're working with today, and these are the two stencils that we're gonna that we're building. This one came out pretty good, the first one, and the second one I'm hoping will come out pretty good. We're gonna paint this guy in red, just because there's not a lot of red on the jacket. Kind of trying to decide, do you spray it white first? A lot of people would spray it white first, just to give that red a little pop. What I did is I put a drop of red on the jacket to see what it looked like without white under it, and it looked pretty good. This color we're using right here, back to me, this color we're using right here is called Illustration Blood Red, and that's a Createx product made by Tim Gore. I just shook this a second ago and got it all over my hands, all over the back of my studio. Make sure you check to see it's ever closed. Also, close your stuff, right? Because it could dry out on you. All right, so the first thing we got to do is get our piece where we want it to go and tape that down. This is the second stencil, the second three stencils actually, and the first one we have is this text one. So we got to find out a good place, that we want it to be. I feel like we don't want to take away a lot of other information. Like down here is the bottom of the wing, which looks all right. And if we cover it with this text, it won't totally cover it because it's red, but it's a consideration. And then down here at the bottom, the text comes to about right here. I'm sorry you guys can't see that better. Let's see if we can get up a little closer on it and see if you can see the text. So you see the text there, coming in around this area. So there it is right in there, and we're trying to figure out what we want to cover. So this will cover a little bit of this bat wing and some, excuse me, I'm exhausted apparently, and some of this tentacle information. But what I think is kind of cool is that it'll be like an overlap to create a small amount of depth in the symbol. Like to have this symbol sitting on top of these other things is something I kind of like. On the other side, we got really close to the pocket, and so you can see the pocket coming in here on the left. On my left, on your right. And so this area also has kind of the same problem, right? And so we're going to come in here and try to stay away from the pocket. Over here, my intention really was to have the symbol be small enough that would fit in this panel right here on the side of the jacket. So didn't work as well on the other side, but I really like how it came out, so I don't care that it was bigger. You know, funny thing is I drew this tattoo. Which one is it? There we go. I drew this tattoo very large for the purpose of giving it to my tattoo artist, so they had all the information they needed, and they said, how big do you want it? And I said, that big. So that was my first tattoo. It hurt. It took a little while. That lady, that young adult's name was Susie, and she was an unbelievably talented artist. And if, you know, I hope you're out there somewhere, Susie, revolutionizing your industry with your awesome skill. I loved working with her. She was really cool. Unfortunately, I think she moved away, far away, the day after I worked with her. How did I get that tape on my finger? So you want to try, you know, I was saying yesterday that taping plastic down on leather is a little challenging, you know, like keeping it flat. And for airbrushing, we need it flat because we're working over it like at a 90-degree angle. So you need it to be absolutely as flat as possible, which is one of the reasons I wanted to see if I could spread my clamps out a little bit. That'll help. Underneath the jacket here, oops. Hey, underneath the jacket here is a piece of masonite, so that it helps me to have something to clamp to. Oops. There we go. So you can see the clamps that I have around here. These are holding it to that board to keep it as flat, you know, as possible. Now this stitch here is going to totally screw our flatness, but it's fine. You know, we just do the best we can with that. Next thing we want to do is pull out all of our torn up pieces of paper for the purpose of using them for masking. No idea why I keep using these same terrible pieces of paper, but I have noticed that they work. And the straight across line here, make it really easy to cover, you know, what we want to cover. Okay. Only reason I've been reusing this is just because it's here, you know, and there's no reason not to reuse it. Pretty nervous about spraying on the back, so we're going to use some additional masking for that. Then one more piece down here, staying away as much as we can from our text. This tape that I'm using here is very, very inexpensive painting tape. Don't use airbrush tape or... I actually really like bulldog tape, and I mean bullfrog tape, and I think it works really awesome if you're working on a car and stuff and professional stuff. And a lot of folks I know, you know, are just painting. So don't spend money on something like that. Buy a better airbrush. Buy a better compressor. When I started out, I was using, you know, your basic tankless compressor, you know, that makes this pulsing sound all the time and gives your paint a spraying effect. This is not something I like in any way. So you want to try, you know, if airbrushing winds up being something you're interested in, if airbrush winds up being something that you're really interested in, I would say, honestly, the first thing I would do is get a good airbrush. Now, the quality of the airbrush is kind of a little bit peripheral when it comes down to it, right? Because I've gone to Harbor Freight and bought $20 master airbrushes, and they have worked as well as my Iwata Neos. You know, Iwata, the Neo is the entry level Iwata, but there is no way that it doesn't work. You know, those masters work literally exactly the way they're supposed to work, and they last quite a while. So that is the deal with that. One sec, guys. That's my daughter's friends calling her. Screw this one up. Don't need that there. We need this here. That's an underneath piece. All right. Alright, so looks pretty good, like we got all our masking in places that it will stay, and we're not going to get the rest of the jacket. I'm going to make sure your tape stays down, because we're of course going to spray air against it, and so what you don't want to have is a big lip like this one. A little bit tighter. Really need a nice clean straight line there. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to pull out our airbrush. What we're using today is the Grex, a Grex airbrush. It has a number, name, XR something. I can't remember what that is off the top of my head. So we're going to use this airbrush to create our colors. Color we're using today is that illustration red. I'm using maybe about 20 pounds of pressure. You want to use a little less pressure than you feel like you need, because you can always spray again and you don't want to have it bounce off. You know, we're spraying very close here and we don't want to have too much pressure to give us an effect that I always think of as caterpillaring, where like your paint kind of blows out a little bit, and that comes from being either too close or having your volume of air too high. So this paint here doesn't really need to be shook, but I can't help it. I do that junk all the time. So this is the airbrush, you know, and we're putting, you know, maybe a few drops in there. We don't want to put in too much. Something I always say to my son is you can put, you know, a certain amount of mustard down, and if it's not enough, you can add more. But you can't put it back in the bottle. So you're kind of stuck with it. All right. So our red looks nice. You see that color right there. So we got everything working. Everything looks good. So now we're going to get in here and paint a little bit. Let me get it a little closer so you guys can see. Get right to the edge. Take me out. All right. You guys see that okay? Unfortunately, at the moment, it's just a mass of tape. But that's okay. All right, so for airbrush stenciling, you want to get in kind of close and stay 90 as much as you can, 90 degrees, because your stencil is cut that if you hit it 90, it'll give you a sharp edge. If you hit it at anywhere below 90, you know, like 88, you can get under the stencil, and then then that's overspray, and then we'll have to fix it. Can we fix it? Absolutely. You know, I've been using black paint all over the jacket, so adding black paint to repair a place isn't going to stand out a whole heck of a lot, I'll be honest with you. So so no big deal, you know. So but we just keep working. Now this paint is going to be kind of wet for a little bit, so we're going to kind of go on a little bit pasting, you know, put a little bit on, add, you know, go back over it again. So we're going to start in this area right here. Just get as much space as I can. So we're painting right here. We're going to start, remember it's air off. Throw me back in there so I can talk to you guys. So we want to turn the air off, and turn the air on off to the side, so that we're not, you know, it's not going to spit right now because we're just starting to use it. But if you do that, it's going to look like you did that. Watch out for spraying under your masking. It's also a problem. Our masking is pretty significant here, so it shouldn't be a huge issue. Okay. This is the letter I had the most hard time with for some reason. It's basically an L, but for somehow I had a problem with it. All right. Looks like we got all the letters but this one. All right, looks pretty good. Like we got all these letters around. We want to let these guys dry for a few minutes, for a minute anyway, and then we're going to go through and hit them all again. I can take a little peek under here to see what they look like. Unfortunately, they're basically invisible. That sucks, because that's not what I wanted to happen. So we're going to have to move to the next thing. We're going to let those guys dry for a sec. We're going to take the paint that's in here, which we used too much of, because now I need to switch to... Well, hold on one second. Maybe we can leave the red in here and just switch airbrushes. Let's see if our other guy's working. Oh my goodness, it's raining again. Best way to test an airbrush is to throw a couple of drops of cleanser in there. Pull out your trash can and find that it's not working. Yeah. This one has a problem with the needle. You know, that it seems to always stick. So I use a tool like this one, like this, which is a multi-tool. Basically right now, we're letting that paint dry for a sec. Alright, so I am removing the needle and checking to see if there's anything stuck on it. Doesn't seem to be. You want to be real careful putting your needle back in. I did recently get this really interesting new tool, which is about fixing needles when they're bent. All right. got air coming out. Everything looks good in our air cap. Definitely working. So now we're going to throw in a little bit of white. Now we've been using this bone white, which is like an off-white, and I think maybe that might be good for this project. Oh, I think I have an older one. Try to go through one at a time. We might have gone through this one already. All right, now the same thing I said on the last one. Always use your cap. You know, always. Sorry for this masking blocking us a little bit. You guys see me okay? All right. So now we got white in there. You want to be careful about spraying in the palms of your hands. I feel like I grabbed the airbrush. I mean, I feel like I grabbed the jacket and I got some white on it, which sucks. All right, so now we just test. Oh yeah, plenty of white. That is our needle a little bit too far up. Definitely working though. But we're supposed to have a little bit of air without paint. And that is paint without air. Well, it's working. I wonder if I put a little bit too much under in. All right, let's get back into this thing. Sorry about the noise. That's the compressor really filling the tank. All right. So what I'm going to do this time is just go around all the letters with white, and then we're going to go back and hit them with red again. That dry for a sec. We are working over some surfaces here, so I mean stitches and that kind of stuff. So we want to basically make sure that we have you know, as much coverage as possible. Try to get it in here. You know what I mean? I'm gonna let that dry for just 1 second. We can swap to the other airbrush. That has our red in it. Oh. Oh, no, I'm not, Dawn. I am not. All right. So this guy with the white, with the red in it, we can just use air. This air will help dry our paint. Right? There we go. Oh no! Looks like we got one guy that didn't come out. There we go. Wonder where I put the back of this one. Doesn't really matter. Okay. So we got this one dude that I don't think got paint. It looks kind of like an L. Looks like we it's interesting because it's very, very hard to see until you got paint on it, and then it gets a little bit easier to see. I mean, sections that I've missed on individual stencils that needed to be pulled. I feel like I just saw two as one. All right, we can poke under here a little, see how the letters look. Look pretty good. All right, hit them one more time. Just the white. Oh, looks like I missed another one. Looking through the stencil, you can kind of see the places that don't have the same white as the other ones. And we want to basically powering the paint on because we just want to get some good coverage. Now, what you don't want to do is what I was just talking about earlier, which is to overspray on your area to blow it out, you know, and have it look crappy. Okay, now we saw there, and there that we didn't have, we had a stencil, a cover to the stencil. All right. So that looks pretty good. I don't think I missed any more stencils. I do think I screwed up a couple of these shapes when cutting the stencil, but if that's the worst thing to happen, that's not that bad. This over here looks like a mess, but I think that's because my fingers are touching the stencil. All right, so now we sprayed the stencil with red and white, and we're going to kind of see how that goes. Trying to decide exactly what we should do here. I had an idea that we'd pull the stencil off, put the other few in, stencil those, and then maybe do the words again. But lining up these words a second time would definitely be a challenge. I wonder what it would look like with the red on top of it, because right now with white it looks pretty good. Maybe we just use a little red. Whoops. By the way, these are quick connects, so you don't have to screw the cap on every time. Looks like we got plenty of paint in here. So I think what we're going to do this time is the same idea in what I just did with the white, which is just give it like a little red on the bottom. So now we got that in there. I think that looks, it's gonna look all right. Let's take a look at it here. Well, not a ton of red, but back down here doesn't seem to have much. Okay. So now we're gonna take all the masking off and put it all back on again, because the other stencil is pretty close to the same size. So first thing we should do is take our masking off. I'm going to try to keep the masking together because I'm going to probably need it again. Try to leave the stencil in place as long as you can to protect the paint from your hands. You know, there's no way to know if it's totally dry, and smearing is definitely a consideration, a concern. Sorry about that, I'm hiding y'all. So now these pieces, which are what was holding our stencil in place, we got to pull those guys. Good idea to leave a corner up, especially if you're working with gloves on, because it can be really, really hard to get your stuff off with gloves on. I don't know, kind of interesting. Some colors. All right. So the next piece that we want to use in our creation of this logo is this guy. So what do? Do we start with his head? Do we start with his body? Seems like his body might be the one to go with. This stencil here is all of the pieces of the character. I know you guys can't see that for crap, but but that is the character there, and we want to lay that guy in as best we can. And so it's kind of tight, you know, and what we want to do is make sure there's a little bit of a gap, because the circle has this edge around it, but it's mostly him. So we just have to kind of get stuff in as tight as we can and try to leave like a loop outside. Now it's cool that there's like little reference points, right? Like the back of the guy's ankle kind of has to be at the R, and you know, the tips of his toes are at that whatever kind of P looking thing, you know. The hardest part with this particular stencil is getting it in the spot where we want it to go, and then being able to fit the next feature in next to it. Cutting them all out of the same piece of acetate may not have been the best thing that I've ever done. But that's what we're going to do. You know, like I'm trying a little bit to save some stuff. This is kind of a small symbol. So that's kind of the way why I did it that way. Once we have it where you want, try to make sure you tape it in place so it doesn't move on you. All right. Okay. So now, as opposed to the last way that we were doing it, we haven't gotten our top down, so we can still get in here and put a good sized piece of tape to help pull the center of our stencil down. And that actually looks really good. So now we just have to go in with our frankly excessive amount of masking. This one there. find being an artist is a relatively messy business. But if you were the kid that liked playing in the, like the sandbox or something like that, then you're gonna love this work that we're doing here. Now I don't know if you guys can see, but the stencil comes way, comes out. It comes way out over here. So this side has no significant masking issues, and the only thing up here is that these other pieces have cuts. So we have to make sure we hide those so that we don't accidentally stencil something else. All right, and this looks pretty good for masking. A little gap here, but there's plastic. You got to hold on one sec because I got to go grab one more piece of gear. Alright guys, sorry about that. We are back together again. I am back with you. Sorry about that. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to work with, I believe we're going to work with white this time because it seems like the red isn't evident enough, So I think that the white with a little red is going to be better. I'm not even sure about the little red. We're going to kind of see how it goes. A little bit of stuff gets stuck on the tip sometimes. Oh, well, that would be why. There we go. Okay. Just got to, this is the needle guard on the front of the airbrush. Had to get it in there and clean it up, fix it. Take a look at the sides of the airbrush. If you see white fingerprints, then they're on you. And you don't want to have wet paint on your hands. It'll screw things up. Second, move my hands off a little bit better. Misplace the back of that airbrush. I'm sure it's around here somewhere. Doesn't really matter, A lot of folks paint with their airbrushes like this with the needle exposed because some people like popping their needle. Like sometimes your paint can stick, and if you pop your needle, you can clean it off. It's another way of cleaning your needle off as opposed to picking it with your fingers. If you're wearing gloves, picking it with your fingers can be a real problem, a very difficult, thing. So, no idea why there's quite so much white paint on this glove. So we might as well pitch it. As I'm sure you guys can imagine, getting gloves has been getting harder and harder. So I would recommend saving them as much as you can, but if you have paint all over a glove, it defeats the purpose of wearing one. Because the hope is that you wouldn't get paint on your hands and transfer it to your artwork. I use black just because I like it. tattoo artists and all that stuff. Alright, so now we're going to try to now it's giving us nothing. Oh no. We lost it. We're down an airbrush. This guy doesn't want to work with us. Same problem as the last one. You just got to put some airbrush cleaner in. Wow. Super clogged. All right. Sorry about this, guys. Just a little inconvenience. Sometimes keeping the airbrushes working is the battle. Even though that red one seems to be doing fine. Alright, let's try that again. Seems like this guy doesn't want to work with us today. Oh, that's because the needle is not moving. I'm hoping that we didn't just blow that tip out. Why it's so hard to get the needle through here. All right. Just one more sec, guys. Sorry about this. This doesn't work, we'll clean out the other one. Well, we got some out, but it still doesn't really want to spray. So I think we're going to move back over to the other one. And this guy, I'm going to take the cup off. See if we can see what's going on in here. One of the, frankly lamest things in airbrushing is that there's just so many moving parts, meaning that so many things that could go wrong. So this guy's going to need a little bit more cleaning than we want to do on camera. So we'll just bail this guy out. I do have another airbrush here, but I can't remember if that one's really working. And I don't remember cleaning it either. So let's see what happens with this one. Oh yeah, this is the one that the pin is, that the trigger is stuck down. We can't use that one. Alright, so cleaning the red out of this guy probably won't take a wicked long time. Although we do have a lot of red in there. Now, of course, the problem with going from red to white is pretty obvious. We don't want pink. See how much red I got on me already. So what I usually do is pour out the red, pour in as much, fill the cup with airbrush cleaner. You can also use rubbing alcohol, but airbrush cleaner works pretty well. and it's not expensive. Each of the sets come with one bottle of cleaner. Not the set of illustration colors that we've been using come with reducer, which is not the same as cleaner. Reducer is what you would use in place of water to to reduce the viscosity of the paint that you're using. You know what I mean? So, which is a really important thing if you're using something that isn't necessarily airbrush paint. I absolutely use a lot of other things through the airbrush, from automotive paints to enamels, to watercolor to inks. All are pretty fun to use. It's also fun to use something, experimental, as opposed to just using the same thing all the time. All right, so now we got all of our red cleaned out here. Maybe we'll slow. This one seems almost killed. All right, don't need a crazy amount. Remember this project we were working on? All right. So over here on the side, a little pink, and then the white's coming. I'm pretty colorblind, so if you guys see that it looks completely pink, give me a comment on here, and I will respond. Okay. All right. So the first place I want to work on, I want to grab my paintbrush. Sometimes my fingers are just too big to do the job, so we have to use something like a paintbrush. Try not to use the tip of the airbrush, of the paintbrush, if you're using one to push it down like I am, because you never know if there's something on it. Not necessarily paint, because I'm sure anybody that was going to use it for this purpose would clean the paint off, but more like residue, like if you painted with ink and stuff, like it leaves a little residue. That residue can get into your paint and change its look and stuff. That sucks. Okay. Getting there. This little piece here is really no good way to hold it. So try to make sure you're 90 over it. Looking good. Okay. So now once you got this guy hit the first couple of times, you can see that there's spots that aren't taking the color as well as other spots. You want to let it dry. Paint loves paint. So as we apply more paint on top of this, we'll get more of a brighter effect. How you guys holding up? We're about an hour in. And we're doing really good. You know, like we're cooking along. I'm having a nice time. I hope you guys are having some fun out there. I never really know how what people think because YouTube doesn't have comments. They have comments on their site, but I can't look at their site and look at my stuff at the same time. Let's see if we can actually. Can we do that? Oh, I don't think I can because of using YouTube Music here to play the music in my headphones. It's worth mentioning that I only listen to music in my headphones because I got in trouble from Facebook saying that I can't use people's music illegally. They're totally right. I honestly didn't even think of that when I was playing music. Because I'm selfish and I don't even know. This is a hard one to keep flat. And obviously, as I've been saying, try to keep your hands off the areas you just painted. And try to stay 90 over the stencil. So you gotta watch out because I've put my hands in some of this wet paint. So you gotta watch out for that. Oh, other one. That sound, I don't know if you guys heard it, was us running out of paint. It happens, you know, I mean, what are you going to do? Okay, so now same stunt. We're going to leave a little bit of cleaner in here. But that doesn't work. In here while we pull the stencil and take a look at it. Right. Back to the nightmare of once again pulling our stencil. This time the stencil will be a little bit more problematic because we have the additional pieces just above it. So on the same surface. If you get paint on your hands, make sure you clean it off really good so that nothing is wet. Okay. Because the last thing we want is to add paint to areas that we don't want them to, or the reverse, take paint away. Alright, so now we can start with this one. Like I said about tabs, good plan, so that we can get all of our masking off without disturbing the stencil too much. So you can see looking right here, maybe you guys can't see that. Yeah. So you can take a look right here where our masking was and see that this is what the overspray looks like. So if we hadn't masked the rest of the jacket, we could have this mist over everything. You know what I mean? All right. So over here, got to be real careful because some reason I taped on top of the next stencil like an idiot. Be very careful what you tape to. It doesn't make a lot of sense to tape to the next stencil down. Okay. So now we have our additional masking off. I feel like there's a lot of pressure. Oh, that looks pretty good. I like it. Alright, trying to get this just in here where we can, where we want it. Okay, same deal. I'm going to tape our stencil down. We can reuse this guy in here. Unless he unrolls on us, and then we can't do a damn thing with him. Okay. Put this one up here. Help to pull it down. Now we want a little bit more. Obviously, we're going to put back all of our ultimately insane amount of masking. Pieces back on. Grab another piece of tape. Usually blow my thumbs out peeling the tape. Same thing I said, leave something sticking out. It'll help your hands to hold on to the tape or to pull the tape up. Okay. This one's a little close. I'm gonna back it up a little. Okay. So now for this guy, it's gonna be challenging to get it just how I want it. Got a little bit more light on it. Just take a look at what we got for information here. it looks pretty good. His wing pokes through there a little bit, but I don't think that's a big deal. All right, you can see down here, you can really see the bone color. Oh, I forgot that we ran out of white. There we go. So if you spray cleaner through there, or keep cleaner in there, chances are that you're not going to have too many problems. Now the next problem down would be if some of that cleaner gets into your paint. If that happens, it waters your paint down, and we don't want that. But you can tell because cleaner bubbles up, and regular paint doesn't. All right, first thing we want to do is get this area up here. Other thing always to watch out for is stenciling your fingers. Okay, so we got the first coat on there. Looks all right. Looks like we might have missed a couple little spots here and there. But that's kind of like what the two-phase painting process is about. You know, like we get in here and we hit up the areas that was against us, you know, or that didn't hold on as good. Brush again. Use this instead. This is an airbrush needle. I was thinking it might help me hold down a little bit of this stuff over here. Found another spot that I missed a little piece of vinyl. Really little. Okay. Okay. Oh, this metal guy right here is giving us some trouble. Just try to shoot behind him. Give that a couple secs to dry. Looks like this piece right here didn't work out so good. You can already see under that. Like I said, we can go through with the black and edit anything that doesn't look right. But we want to try to get the spraying part as clean as possible. You know what I'm talking about? All right. not good. That just means the tip has got some junk on it. So we got paint in here. Ah, we killed all the paint we had. Well, that's okay. That's, you know, that's okay. All right, we got that thing pumping still, so we're good on that. You guys still with me? We're about an hour and 15 minutes in. So now we have to do the dreaded pull our stencil, pull our masking, then our stencil. As I said, we want to leave our stencil there as long as we can. You also want to try really hard not to tape your other stencils. You know, it looks pretty good. A bit of overspray there in the middle. But I think I should be able to fix that. What do you guys think? He's coming along. He's coming along. I wish he was a little darker. But see, like when we take our brush, our paint markers, most of the paint markers I'm using are the same paint of what we used here, which is cool because then it helps out, you know. And it winds up making this stencil our armature for creating more and different details. Now the other one is a geometric symbol, relatively, so we don't really have to do much with it, or didn't have to do much with it. I did edit, you know, I did absolutely edit it. So another thing to watch out for is that any of your stencils are still wet, you know. I probably couldn't tell on these gloves, so gotta make sure that it's not a huge big deal if you don't put the stencil on wrong, right? If we do put the stencil on wrong, we have no one to blame but ourselves. Get this right in here. So that it looks, you know, like the rest of it, like we're getting it inside this circle. It's kind of a problem because I also have the arc of the wing there. So again, you can see that this glove has wet paint on it. So that's what we are looking to paint right there. I'm concerned about right here. Almost forgot our vast masking. Don't forget masking. You know, I mean, how are you going to forget it after I've talked about it so much? But don't forget masking because it'll screw you. You know, like even if you totally think you're fine. You know, my favorite thing is, oh, you kidding me? I'm awesome at aiming the airbrush. I can totally do that. And I bet you are. But stencils are a whole different project than air painting, you know. You got to make sure everything is, you know, really tight. So I'm hoping that guy will help me hold it down, hold it flat. You guys still see me? Over my junk. All right, that looks pretty good. So now we check that we got paint, which we do, and try to get in here. Guess what we forgot to do? Put more paint in. My hope is that we didn't just spray that, you know, clean that. I mean, spray that with cleaner. I think pretty much all the cleaner was out though. That guy dry for 1 sec. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. I feel like today is the most distracted I've been on a live stream in a long time. Apologize for that, especially if it's your first time working with me. I don't know. I think it looks pretty good. You know, we've got his head in there. Looks like some pretty good coverage. This is an airbrush needle again. I'm using here. Never throw anything away. Airbrush needles could really help. All right. Moving right along, huh guys? Like you see how quick, you know, things can kind of go. Airbrushing doesn't have to be complicated. This other brush notwithstanding, it would take about 10 minutes to break that airbrush down, clean the entire thing, and find out why it's having this issue. Chances are it's nothing significant. It's really just paint. You know, there's an incredibly tiny tip in here that the airbrush needle goes through. Guys, I'll never be able to see this, but you see this? See that tip? That's where the needle goes through. And a lot of times it can get blown out. And if it gets blown out, you got to replace it. But my guess would be that that's not the deal with the airbrush at all. It's just got paint stuck in it. You know, which happens. If you ever leave your airbrush without cleaning it, it's going to get gummed up and you're going to have to clean it. So, you know, it is what it is. I actually don't want to say that anymore. It feels like it's used by too many unpleasant people. I'm a little nervous. You guys nervous? Oh, I like it. I like it. All right, cool. So that's what that looks like. So the next step that we're going to do is we're going to go in with our black marker and no gloves and do some adjustments, clean up some areas that I want to be darker. We're going to use this marker. Oh yeah, there we go. And these, all Una Pasca, but good stuff. You know what I mean? Actually, you know what? Before we get in with this, let's get in with this. This is a bone white marker that I made for this purpose. And this is to fill in the gaps that we had to create for the stencil to work. Right? Because as you can see, there's quite a few spots that I had to pull out to make the stencil work. This is cool because it's a multi-piece stencil that I was really able to, you know, to build. Where'd my rag go? Haven't moved at all, yet somehow my rag is missing. Anybody out there take my rag? Very, very odd. All right. So anyway, this marker is a Maltao empty. So we can use it to fill in It's an empty filled with the Old Bone White, which is the illustration color that we used. I took all of these colors, the airbrush colors, and I built custom markers with them for just this purpose right here. That's a pretty good toss, right? Pretty obvious where we had to pull the stencils, you know, where we had to pull lines to make the stencil work. Okay, so we just check out the spots that we had to, you know, that we had to mess with. Okay. So the difference with these markers, right, are not huge, because this guy here is a pilot tip marker. Oops. So this guy's a pilot tip marker, so it has a nylon tip. This is a really exceptionally good marker. The only limitation is that you can't use it like sideways, right? So they came out with this marker. This is a 0.7 millimeter. This guy actually, I believe, says the same, also 0.7, which is the tip of this, but we do have a little bit of a wider line if we use the edge. Missed a spot. Right. Seems like there may be a few more spots for the bone white, but I think we're okay right now. Get this wing here. Getting there. obviously you want to, I got to be a little careful in here. What you don't want to do is screw up now, because it would not be an easy fix to try to repair the airbrush from here, the airbrush mark. We want to keep it tight, but keep it from moving away from our original piece. Meaning, you just want to be careful with your marker lines, that they stay true to the stencil and true to the character, right? This dot here is meant to stand alone. All right. In here, it looks like we have a little bit of a mess. We kind of want these same shapes coming up here, right? This is where his wing is going to connect, so we want to leave a line like this, and then bring this up here. Alright, now in here we know we have his shoulder. Just want to dip it a little bit to give it a little bit more dimension there. Cut some of our overspray here and here. Same through here. Right. This was some weight that was actually on the jacket in this place already, which was a little bit of a pain, but I actually felt like, part of the thing with this jacket is to be using something old. Okay, just try to get in here under his jawline. Sorry guys, wasting time looking at myself looking down. Doesn't make a ton of sense, right? Okay, want a little line here that separates his head from his wing. And then we kind of want to give his wing a tip here. All right. So we're really looking to have his shoulder, do this. So that shows us where his arm is. We can bring in some of these along his back, just like the ones that are showing his ribs here. Now the same deal under his head here. You know, we want to separate his head. That sounds funny. Separate his head from his body. And that's his knee coming down and in. All right, I think those things on his feet have gone out a little bit too far. Looks like this is another spot that I didn't catch because we want to kind of build out his wrist here. And actually, let's build out his wrist first. That's going to be where his wrist comes in, and this is where his knee comes in, right over here near his knuckles. Okay, so then we want to one more little finger here, and that's his arm. So this little negative area here, I'm going to put a little bit of this color in. Remember what I said about paint liking paint. You can see looking at this that the second coat of this color is better than my first one. You'll notice that it's hard to find a good spot for your light when doing this kind of work. So let's do the same deal through his teeth here. Or these aren't his teeth, but they look like teeth. These would be his chin tentacles. Gotta be careful I don't go over my white. This light seems even suckier, because I can't see. The shadow of my hand is covering. Getting in there, home stretch. We're about an hour and 40 right now, so we got about 10 more minutes. Gonna see how far we can get. Go ahead. Alright, coming along, coming along. I think we're gonna drop, well, it's a little bit of bone white maybe in here. A little more wing. Okay. Okay. Now these bumps are kind of supposed to be down the back of the character. And this is where his wing is going to connect. So this is actually his hip here. Okay. Get his wrist in here. Okay. Okay. So one of the things that was an interesting problem here was that there's information that's inside the character that we could want to have outside. Like the entire back surface of this character is this bone white color. Probably would have made sense to do that first and then spray him in black, but whatever. It was going to be the same problem either way. Now the challenge is going to be figuring out how to establish what's him and what's the background. Have to kind of decide how to deal with that. And maybe make him black sort of intentionally. You know what I mean? This marker is totally not working. Don't know why. But it is inconvenient. Because I do need a marker that's small. You know, that I could get in here and make some small adjustments. Okay. again to our black. All right. Now there's one problem, right? Which is that this guy's eye should be black, and it isn't. But I needed a way to like save the shape of his eye so that I could establish it, later, like now. Okay. So this marker we can get a combination of lines out of, which I really think makes a big difference. How's that look to you guys? Let's jump it over here so we can get a little closer. You can see it without me. Alright, so now the next thing we got to do is we got to switch to the other marker, which is the very, very small one. Now, like we said, those are the same color, but this guy is consistently smaller than the other one. So what I'm doing here is trying to clean up some of the ones I didn't get their information in. There was a couple that were hard to stencil. I don't know if it's raining out by you guys, but it's raining over here pretty good. So right now we're just going around the letters and to try to pull them out a little bit from the background. This is probably maybe the last thing we have to do here. There's quite a few letters. This one's kind of like an F. I always think how amazing the artists and writers are who come up with their own languages for supernatural beings. I love that. That's so cool. Okay. I think we're a little less than halfway. Up here, also these, this text also had to be trimmed to make sense. To be able to lay it in so that the letters didn't fall apart. Most of it wasn't bad. Most of it was pretty easy. But some of it. So you guys, we're over now by 2 minutes. So if anybody has to go, I totally get it. I'm going to keep working on this just until I finish these letters because I basically feel like that's the last thing that needs to be done with this piece right here. This is a B that I had to cut out. I don't know what letter it is in the language of Cthulhu, but I love the fact that letters repeat as just like a language would. That's wicked cool. One of the things I was really worried about in building this part of the jacket, two things. One, if you blow it on one of the last things you're doing, you screw up the whole thing. The other thing was to blow the spacing on the letters, because it's hard to get the shape of something. Although the software I was using overlaps overlaps. You know, you can build a layered composition, and in theory, that should 100% be all the same. You know, whatever size you chose to make it. Sometimes I screw that up somehow. Okay. That looks pretty much like our lettering around the edge there. Okay. Well, the other thing is, man, I really wanted this eye to be black. But not the end of the world. All right. All right. All right, looking pretty good. I just wanted to hit those dots up a little to kind of pull them forward a little. I feel like there's one or two that I'm missing. Looks pretty good. All right, let's take a look at this. All right, so that is what we were trying to build here. A little runic version of Cthulhu. Looks good. I think it came out really, really fun. I had a really good time working on it. Little wing here.
I'll be right there.
All right, you guys. Well, that's pretty much what I wanted to do today. Um, thanks a lot for being with me. I hope you guys had an all right time. The symbol I think came out pretty cool. Um, we can, I had a lot of fun with it. I think we got done exactly what I wanted it to look like. Um, just a couple steps left on the jacket. If you guys are interested, I will. Wear me out, man. I will be here tomorrow, Friday, from noon to 2 on Facebook at the Greenhouse Graphics Facebook page. On that, we'll be working on the chest plates, and if we get enough time, we will be building the Cthulhu skull design. Or if I have some time today, I might do that before I see you guys. So that's kind of what's going on. So I appreciate it, you guys, and I want you to